Okay, Fire for Effect Live, Operational Security and Censorship, take 2. Fuck me. What a day yesterday was. I want to apologize to everybody if you saw my social media. We did this whole podcast yesterday as planned. And then I realized that in Restream, which is what I used to stream this live, I didn't actually click go live. Now I know we are, in fact, live. So, not sure mid-afternoon here in Edmonton who's going to jump in, but you will hear it later this time, I guarantee. The premise of this particular show was driven by some events that occurred last weekend. So, I didn't really know what I was going to do leading up to yesterday, now today. And I was watching one of my favorite podcasts, which is called the Shawn Ryan Show. Now, the Shawn Ryan Show is hosted by a guy named, obviously, Shawn Ryan. Shawn is a former U.S. Navy SEAL and an ex-CIA contractor. He owns and operates a company called Vigilance Elite in the United States, which is on Patreon and offers a lot of informative stuff when it comes to guns and cool guy shit. He also hosts the Shawn Ryan Show, where he interviews typically military guys, a lot of special operators, and in particular on last, I don't know if it came out Friday or Saturday, but I watched it, I think, Saturday, and that was episode 47. And episode 47 featured Dallas Alexander. Dallas Alexander is a former JTF-2, Joint Task Force 2 sniper. If you don't know who that is, JTF-2 is part of Canadian Special Operation Forces Command. It is Canada's Tier 1 Special Operations Unit, responsible for domestic counterterrorism, international operations as dictated by the command, and other tasks such as close protection, training, etc., as dictated by the command and the government. Before we go further on how that shit evolved and how we got to today, Operational Security and Censorship, I'm going to bring the boys in. Mr. Bryce Hooper and Mr. Morgan Warren. Gentlemen, what's going on? Welcome back. Oh, yeah. Fuck.
I even wore the same shirt as last night just for continuity's sake.
I did, for continuity's sake.
Like it matters, right?
And I've cleaned this glass and drank out of the same glass.
Thank God.
I changed the color of the grenade to blue because it's daylight. I'm using 5600 Kelvin lighting with my ambient daylight. Yeah, fuck. We'll see who jumps in. We are actually live. My phone told me it's a real thing.
Hey.
So,
yeah, thankfully, I wasn't the only one worried about should I wear the same shirt. It doesn't even make sense.
Nobody's seen the other one.
Yesterday was one of those days, man. It was like, you had a day where fucking nothing is going right, and it's all little bullshit things that just drive you nuts. Like, I lost this little tiny fucking adapter to take the microphone from a hot shoe or shoe mount on a camera to a tripod. I protected this thing with my fucking life for a year, and I lost it. My blackout curtains finally showed up. No curtain rods, because why would they? And then we go on, and I'm not live. I'm like, fuck, and I want to go hide in bed and just write this fucking day off.
Oh, dude, I'll totally top your story. After the pod last night, I went up to the grocery store.
Yeah.
I walk in. I'm in there for 5 minutes. I come out. Somebody had smashed into the front right corner of my car.
Shut up.
And then took off.
And then fucked off.
Yeah.
No way.
Risky, we have a viewer. Wow. That fucking sucks, man.
Yeah. I know, especially because like it's only an old Ford Focus. The goddamn thing, like Kelly Blue Book on it is only worth $4,000. They're gonna like if I call it like. But right now the tire rubs the wheel well, so I got to get it fixed. So they're probably going to write it off.
Yeah, then you can get a fucking truck and like do shit.
Dude, I can't afford. I don't have a pot to piss in, man. I can't afford a truck. Fuck. The amount of money I'm fucking going to be paying out here pretty quickly. No, thank you. I'm going to get a fucking Fiat 500.
That's a different pod, bro.
I know.
Okay, so let's jump in. The driver behind this show, as I mentioned earlier, is Dallas Alexander, former JTF-2 sniper's appearance on SRS number 47. And what happened was, and I'm going to bring up some imagery here. Now, bear with me, people that are listening. Sent on the 10th of February, for those who can see this, I'll just give you a thumbnail sketch. This is a cease and desist letter from the legal advisor to Joint Task Force 2, or to CANSOFCOM. So that would have went through, the JAG's office, through the Department of National Defense, through the government of Canada, sent down to Tennessee, the United States, to Shawn Ryan, saying, stop, there are breaches of operational security, yada, 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 yada. Hi, Tara. Thanks for joining. Okay. It's got some redaction in it. So Shawn subsequently pulled the pin, pulled episode 47 as an entirety. I was privileged to watch it. We'll jump into that later. Not because he gives two shits about what the Canadian government says. He's a U.S. citizen. He's not subject to Canadian law and doesn't give a fuck. Did it more likely out of respect for one of his soft brothers, for Dallas, so Dallas can navigate the water, boiling water, maybe, if you want to look at it that way. So that's how I perceive why he pulled it. He did release a redacted version of 48, where Dallas gets into why he released from the CF and his journey into psychedelics and his journey into music and where he is today, which was pretty fucking cool. And this just in, where is that thing? So Morgan, you pulled this today.
Yeah.
Canadian military investigates unauthorized release of JTF2 sniper video. This is National Post, I'm sure. I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, David Pugiles. I can't pronounce his name. He's a longtime D&D military analyst, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And he writes pretty good shit. I respect his work. He strives for accuracy and he's unbiased. So it'll be curious to see how this plays out. But eventually, ultimately what's happening is, hey, Ryan.
So they're going after
the government of Canada's got their fucking panties in a bunch and they're pulling this. Now, we're going to get into operational security and then we'll kind of break down. I don't want to get Dallas in any more shit than he's already in, or stir the pot or rock the boat, whatever, what have you. What I do want to talk about is how we perceive on operational security, guys who have dealt with it in my job and Morgan's job and Bryce's job, deployed overseas. So operational security, loosely put, is a government, or in this case, the military, or a combination thereof. It's denial of information to an enemy or potential enemy. Okay. And which is tough to do with social media. So it includes things like tactics, techniques, and procedures, or what we call TTPs, equipment types that we use, such as communications, weapons, whatever it might be, unit composition, size of specific units, and the capabilities within those units. And obviously operational activity and location would all fall under operational security in an effort to deny the enemy even bits of information that can ultimately be put together to use against either Canada, the Canadian Armed Forces, or individual units thereof on the ground operating in various theaters across the country. See, fuck, I said that way better than yesterday. This was meant to be. So that's
the extra practice. There you go.
Right? Did I miss anything on how we look at OPSEC?
No,
you hit it.
I think that kind of covers it. Now, before we get to censorship, let's use Dallas's situation on SRS as a case study. So he goes on the Shawn Ryan Show. It's broken down into two parts, as I said, episode 47. And I was lucky to see it before it got pulled. All right.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. I went looking for it last night.
It's
even
fucking,
the redacted
it's
version.
gone.
Nothing,
yeah.
It's gone until they work all their shit out between Ottawa and yeah. Because anyway, let's get into that. So I watched it, and to me, like, I've seen a lot of guys go on that Shawn Ryan Show, all ex-SEALs, Green Berets, all these guys. Now, so everybody understands this. The United States, unlike Canada, is a lot more open about their special operations today. You go back about 10 years, 15, 20 years, everything was secretive. And the first fucking thing that I recall ever coming out was Bravo 20 by Andy McNabb. Remember that book? And then they made a movie with Sean Bean out of it.
Yeah.
That spoke about what the SAS does. And if you go through any given bookstore or whatever, if they still have bookstores, right? Yeah.
I think they're called
You can find all
antiques.
kinds of fucking books on special operations, blah, 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 because it's exciting shit.
Cool.
Canada's been a little bit more secretive. Most of the special ops guys I know, and there's a handful, not a fucking ton. Even my roommate, who you guys know, he they just don't talk about it that much. So unless I'm wrong, I think Dallas Alexander was the first Canadian spec ops guy, definitely this first Canadian JTF2 guy to go on a show and have a conversation. And as I understand it from him, okay, this was all above board. So before we dive into what he talked about, I want to make sure we're covering facts and not fiction.
Yeah.
We'll dive into our opinions later. Fact, Dallas Alexander started off in 3rd Battalion PPCLI, Morgan's unit.
Yeah, correct.
Fact, he went to Joint Task Force 2 and became a sniper. Fact, he was deployed to Mosul, Iraq in, I don't know when he got there.
2017.
And was part of a sniper team that made the world record longest kill, okay, against an ISIS fighter in Mosul, Iraq in 2017. Fact, he was on the Shawn Ryan Show and discussed, let's dive into that. He basically talked about selection in broad terms, how he got into JTF2, his background growing up in a Métis community, working in the oil patch in Alberta. Good Alberta boy, by the way.
Yeah.
Wow. Wanted to join the Army. Actually joined the Army late by what I consider.
Yeah, he did.
You know?
Well, when did he join? Sorry.
He was like 23 when he joined.
23 years old, man. I'm like,
wow.
Yeah.
That's I'm coming in blind. I didn't catch any of his story. So I've caught stuff all over social media that's discussing it right now, but
sure, it's exploded. So it's kind of the timing on this is good. So yeah, I joined in at 23 years old and basically knew right away he wanted to get into special operations, but we have minimum time in units. I believe it's 2 years before you can apply to go to selection. He didn't get into any details about selection. He talked a little bit about after selection when he went on his basic assaulters course, and then spoke in broad terms about deployment, ultimately leading to Shawn's questions about the shot that he was involved in with that team. And that was the crux of episode 47 with Shawn. Now, on the OPSEC side, I mean, I'll let Morgan field this first because Morgan is also a sniper, also, knows Dallas a little bit, did basic sniper with him, same unit. So, like, in your opinion, watching that shit, how do you feel, or was there anything at all that was a violation of OPSEC?
No, like I said, I'll say what I said yesterday too. Like, there's going to be a lot of criticism. You got a lot of fans as well as haters of Dallas because of what he's said or what he's perceived to have said. I'm not saying we're good friends, but I know him. He was my very first sniper partner. So, I said I know him well enough, and he's a consummate professional, stand-up guy. A good human, even better soldier, and a smart guy, a very smart guy. Like I said, you don't just show up to JTF2. You're selected to be there because of your physical fitness, your intelligence, all of these things. So there's no doubt in my mind that before he went on Shawn Ryan, he made sure his bases were covered so that he wasn't in breach of any of these things. But then on to what you said though, Chris, when I watched episode 47 and they actually show footage from like inside their fire position or their OP, like same thing that you did. I started watching that video. I start looking at uniforms. I start looking at weapon systems. I start looking for patches, anything that I would deem as sensitive. Because as a sniper and I was in Gagetown as the officer in charge of sniper cell in the Canadian Army sniper program. We're always very big on OPSEC. So when I was I looked through this video like thoroughly a bunch of times. There was nothing to me that stood out that was an operational security breach in my opinion. And then moreover, back in 2017 when this shot was made, like days after that shot was made, there was a press release. They compromised the position of that observation post, and then that sniper team ended up taking fire, and they got shelled, and they had to do they had to egress out of that observation post.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's
CBC had to break the story.
Yes.
Fucking no doubt, right? Like, so that's the big thing. And just to echo your comments, I didn't see anything that I thought was a violation of operational security, considering the event is fucking 6 years ago.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, like there's nothing relevant there anymore. Like I'd say even from the 2017 to now, even equipment they're using has probably changed drastically when you're thinking of Tier 1 Special Forces. Like stuff that they used 5 years ago, they're not using today. And moreover, everything that they did, it's like the method and the equipment that they use is all open source. You know
exactly.
So you can Google it. All these civilian long range shooters probably they do these things often.
Yeah, because he went down, like the unit went down to a civilian fucking sniper school in Texas.
Yes.
To evolve their long range shooting abilities.
Yes.
Including the equipment. Wow. So it's a civvy run place. So it doesn't fall under security clearances and all that crap. They're using off the shelf kit.
Even the guy who runs that facility, like he's not even ex-army or ex-SEAL. This guy is a civvy through and through.
Yeah. Wow.
He's a straight civvy. He didn't spend a day in a uniform, but he's a beautiful mind when it comes to long range shooting.
Yep.
And he's just an old, essentially a farm boy from West Texas.
And that says a lot when a Tier 1 unit says we're going to go down and train with this fucking guy because he's the best.
I know like Marines go down, like U.S. Marines go down there. All branches of the American military train there. We've had our special operations guys training down there, and so it's like I said, it's all open source, and I don't want to say anybody can take these courses. And I'm sure maybe there might be some things that they don't tell civilians, but for the most part, most of these things it's trigonometry and wind calls. Give me a break. Sure.
And getting back to the video and what he talked about, how sniper teams work, you see it semi-accurately reflected in movies, books, TV shows. You can Google the shit out of it, and it talks about sniper teams, pairs, spotter, shooter. Fucking
Chris.
It's not a fucking goddamn that anything he showed.
And moreover, like I said, after that press release was made back in 2017, next thing you know, you've got media outlets are contacting the Canadian Armed Forces, and they got directed to the Army, and then the Army directed to the infantry school. It landed on my desk. I did 2 interviews. I did one on TVO with Steve Rankin live for 25 minutes, and I did another one. I believe the interviewer's name was Harry Forstall in CBC New Brunswick, and that was national. I was on there live for 25 minutes. I had PAFOs behind me, probably shitting in their pants thinking that I was going to say or do something stupid, but I was fine. And they were asking me about all these things, about like the composition of a sniper team, how snipers operate, like, is this normal? What type of training do you do? Like, how do you make these shots? And I answered all these questions. Like, I obviously cleared it with the PAFO because most of it it's open source.
And we spent, to echo that, fucking on pre-deployment for 309 was my second counter ID tour. OPSEC's fucking huge for EOD counter ID teams. And nobody was allowed to talk to the media except our OC, which was great because I fucking hate talking to the media anyway. Right on. Good to go. We're in theater. And 3/4 of the way through the tour, I get a phone call from the PAFO back in CAF going, hey, listen, there's an Australian ABC News, Australian Broadcasting Corporation, wants to do an interview with you. I'm going, what? What are you talking about? Like, I'm good. I did do the interview, very broad terms. And then when we got back in to go on leave, the EOD troop leader was doing another fucking interview with CBC and showing off the robot and showing off all this fucking shit. And I was just sitting back going, well, fucking, it's OPSEC up your ass until they say they want to show it off and tell a cool story to the public.
Yeah. So, well, wasn't that the time frame Hurt Locker, the movie, was coming out?
Well, okay.
You guys were like fucking heroes in the media.
So that was before we left, right? Where that had nothing to do with fuck all, other than Hurt Locker had just come out. And if you haven't seen the movie, it's fucking great. I like Jeremy Renner.
It's those Gucci shots that CBC wanted, because now they have footage just like Hollywood does.
Yeah, so Hurt Locker is about an American EOD team in Iraq, and they do all kinds of fucking cool shit. And like I said before, we were interviewed, guys on my team were interviewed to talked about it in relation to reality. Is it realistic or is it Hollywood? And basically, we just talked about the kit they used, and then the rest of it is fucking sensationalized. But the point is, and we're going to get into censorship here in a second. OPSEC's great until they want to turn it into a fucking story.
Yeah, then it's a dog.
And then it gets thrown at us to maintain. I don't want to fucking go down that path, but that's a fact. That's the way.
100%. They called them dog and pony shows at one service battalion when we had to entertain politicians.
Sure, you got to bring out all your shit and show it off.
Show them the gear, bring them in the cab.
And bigger picture. One thing, like right now, I mean, the Canadian Armed Forces is in a bit of a shit state. But one thing that Canada has always been known for is our sniper program.
Yeah,
like
world-renowned.
5 of the world's longest shots were made by Canadians. Or correction, 3 of the top 5 longest shots were made by Canadians.
And 2 of them are newfies.
Wow.
And all of them are Patricias.
Oh, no way.
Oh, just rubbing that in.
It's West Coast all the way.
And moreover,
shit, I'm staying out of that, man.
Moreover, they were 3rd Battalion Patricias, just saying. Right?
Just saying. Just putting her out there.
Wow, that speaks of the training then.
So here comes the inter-unit rivalry comments that are coming down the fucking pipe. so
but anyway, like I was saying, so the media and the Canadian government, like they want to sensationalize it, they want to showcase it because it's something we've always done. Like when I worked at the infantry school in the sniper cell, and even when I was like the unit brigade master sniper out west, I mean the amount of emails and phone calls that I would get from all over the world wanting to participate in our basic, our intermediate, and our advanced sniper courses, as well as whether it's a student or a guest instructor. When we do the Canadian International Sniper concentration was like us in the U.S. Army were the first 2 in the world to do something like that, and they were the 2 premier events for military sniping. So it's one thing that Canada is known for. It's part of our brand. So obviously the Canadian government and media wanted to get it out there and be like, look at Canada, we're badass snipers, still got it,
Yeah. Yeah, no, so just to go full circle here, I in my opinion, having had to manage and deal with operational security, and I had a fucking rock star security clearance when I was still in, I was level 3 top secret, because of the nature of the shit that we did. I don't see anything in that video or in that initial interview prior to it being redacted or pulled that is a violation of operational security. Regarding the fucking incident or the actual op with the longest fucking world record shot. We can't speak today.
Can I play the devil's advocate again here though?
Well,
never.
Sure.
This is the part that
the only guys that violated operational security was the government of Canada releasing that fucking video and compromising the OP of that team, which they ultimately had to leave under fire. So
100%.
That's who fucking violated OPSEC. And what happened to them? Nothing. Anyway, no OPSEC there. Go ahead, Bryce.
Just me being the conspiracy theorist. Just put your tinfoil hats on.
All right.
Is this all of this is happening because it wasn't an OPSEC attack, but maybe there was an ego attacked or a certain circumstance that was spoken about that maybe, I don't know, attack the prime minister's office or just the shit stain of the government at the moment or something to that extent. And they're not able to actually shut anything off because of those things, but they're able to shut things off because of OPSEC, and they can in that big.
Yeah, I agree with you, Bryce.
Hang on.
Like I said,
let's define censorship first, because that's what we're talking about here. So censorship is the suppression or prohibition of information, be it written, orally spoken, video, podcast, fucking whatever, that the government would deem politically dangerous to the government. Not politically incorrect. That's not what we're talking about. Politically damaging or a risk to the country's operational security, fucking shit like that. And it's obviously an abused thing, which is we're not going down that road. We'll be here all day.
Yeah, no, that's
basically what censorship is. Basically, any given government broadband, and we're not going to talk about China versus Canada, versus the U.S. Get into freedom of speech. What we're talking about is specific case study wise to this situation where the individual was censored or is being censored and suppressed or prohibited from talking about the information under, I'm going to use this word, which is going to trigger everybody, what they're deeming or the guise of operational security, or maybe it's something else. We're not getting there yet, but we will get there.
Yeah.
And that's a speculation. I can only go by actual information in hand. But at the end of the day, Dallas Alexander said he green-lighted this, and I trust the character of that man because it's the right fucking thing to do. Better man than I, because if I was going to talk counter ID shit, I'm probably not calling Task Force Counter ID in Ottawa or the Counter ID Squadron in Gagetown, because I've been out 13 years and fucking was, at the top of my game back then. I probably just would. So maybe I should if I ever get to that based on this. But so he's a better man than me. He went out of respect to his brothers that are currently operating, use the exact same TTPs, probably, or evolved versions thereof. Yeah. He had respect to go back to the unit and say, look, I'm going on this show. I'm sure they knew about it, because if you look at the timestamp on that fucking letter, they knew. They knew he was going to be on the show. It was dated 10 Feb, man.
Yeah.
And the second part of it wasn't coming out till the fucking 13th. Or 14th, no, 13th.
Yeah. Somebody in the chain of command
reported knew what was going on
already, 100%.
So they knew, and the only way they would know, because Dallas Alexander is no longer in the CF. We're going to get to that later. Don't get excited. They knew, and the only reason I think they would know is because he went to them and said, "I'm going to go do this," and then some fucking guy up the chain,
somewhere in that chain,
Bryce's road here, went, "Wait a minute. I'm not involved in this. I'm going to put a fucking stop to this."
How is my ego not being stroked?
Could have been within the unit, probably not. Could have been within CAN Softcom, who owns JTF2. Could have been within the CAF as a whole at the higher levels, right? Command level. Could have been a D&D. I don't know. We'll never know. But somebody fucking knew, and somebody didn't like it, and somebody stopped something that Dallas did, was above board, did not violate OPSEC, cleared it with his unit, and pissed off somebody. So,
I think to kind of get back, just to circle back to what Bryce was saying, like I said, when you get into like the end of episode 47 and into 48, Dallas does voice a little bit of discontent with kind of, the direction that, the CAF writ large is kind of going, and some of his own, his own opinions. And then in 48 with, getting into his release process, and maybe he's, he wasn't that fond of how he was released. And what Bryce was saying, so they're going after him for operational security.
Well, I'll tell you what,
and they may be, and they're probably grasping at straws, but at the end of the day, there are still some straws to grasp at, I guess. But the real reason that they're pissed is because back here, they're pissed because he said some unfavorable things about.
Well, we don't know that. That's speculation. We're speculating that.
That is speculation. It absolutely is. Yeah. But like I said, Tim Ford had
speculation. Hang on, to feed your speculation,
because it's a giant bright light.
At the end of the day, the unit who let's give Dallas the benefit of the doubt that he cleared all this shit with the unit. They fucking know the conditions of his release, right? They understand the terms of his release. No, 100% they know. The command does. The fucking whole Canadian Forces knows how that guy was released. We're coming to that. Hang on.
Okay. Yeah.
So they had first right of refusal to go, no, fuck you. You're not talking about anything relating to JTF2.
Yeah. They could have put an NDA.
Court, right? You signed an NDA as per that thing I showed earlier.
Yep.
Right? Fucking No, they could have cut that off at the head, and there would never have been an episode 47, 48 on SRS
100%. Yeah.
that would have featured Dallas Alexander. So those fucking guys had first right of refusal. They chose to wait. And then right before 48 gets released, where he gets into the conditions of his release, his thoughts and opinions, which I'll leave out on the current state of the Canadian forces. But, we might touch on it a bit, but I don't want to get this guy in any more fucking shit.
Yeah.
So they had, in my opinion, fucking first right of refusal to shut it down before it got ahead of it. And that's clearly indicated. Let's bring up some graphics again. Look at the date timestamp on that letter. 10 Feb. So like the fucking day after it was released.
Oh, and that most of that's going to be a skeleton of somebody else's.
Episode 47, but before episode 48. I don't know, man. Something smells a little dirty here to me. By the way, this is a picture of Dallas in Iraq, I believe.
Yeah.
That's fucking kit. But you can buy all this shit on Civvy Street. He's not violating OPSEC by taking a picture. Oh, and by the way, in that letter, which I'm not going to read out here, I'll bore everybody that's listening. It says that all video, pictures, and blah 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 are the sole property of the fucking crown.
Yeah.
I'm like, really? Okay. Well, you got fucking thousands upon thousands of guys that you better send a memo to going, any picture you took overseas is our property. And you know what my answer to that's going to be? Right fucking there, boys. Yeah. Fuck you guys. So that picture right there, you guys listening can't see. It's me giving the finger to a buddy of mine over in Afghanistan. Apparently this belongs to the crown. Well, I'm going to print this fucking bitch off and I'm going to mail it to the government of Canada going, here's your property back.
Yeah. It belongs to their service number. You just happen to borrow for a little bit. That's all that shit.
I don't buy that shit at all, man. Yeah. So I don't know, to get to where we are, we're going to tackle the fucking white elephant that you guys have been chomping at, because Morgan's in a similar situation.
Yeah.
And listen, so we're explicitly clear here. We have moved beyond fact into opinion and maybe some speculation.
Yeah.
So here's the caveat going forward. In no way, shape, or form are the expressions on Fire for Effect or Fire for Effect Live and the people on it, do they reflect the opinions of the Government of Canada, Department of National Defense, Canadian Armed Forces, CANSOFCOM, or JTF2? These are our opinions and our opinions only, based on our experience, and that we're old, crusty, disgruntled fucking So let's get into it. In episode 48, Redacted, he gets into his release item, and this falls into the wheelhouse of COVID-19, the government of Canada's decision that all federal employees must be vaccinated, and then how the Canadian Armed Forces rolled it out. Now, considering Morgan Warren is in the same situation, still currently serving, I'm handing the reins to you to walk everybody through how all that shit went down, because you were a guy, that dealt with it and still fucking dealing with it. So as soon as you're done playing fucking Bejeweled, you're up.
No, I was just checking the. That was a text came through from the old insurance adjuster.
Oh, okay. Because your car's all fucked up.
But no, back to, like I said, what I said earlier, which we said was a bit of speculation with regards to grasping at straws. But the real reason they're angry is because of some of his opinions on the state of the army, and then COVID vaccinations, blah blah, all of these things, right?
Yeah, but that's speculation. Yeah,
it is speculation. But and the reason I said it is because I feel like I am in a similar situation. Now, although the mandates have been rolled back and they're like, we want you to come back to work, it's like, fair enough, but like, I can't be in an operational unit. I can't do anything. So why even be there?
Yeah. So where Morgan's going with this, Dallas Alexander was released from the Canadian Forces, and we don't know the release item, for refusing the vaccine, which has exploded into a complete fucking colostomy bag that hit a wall at high speed, and because it was mismanaged and mishandled. And I'm speaking facts because I know that guys like Morgan were sent home to fucking rot, still getting paid. There are guys in health services group that went to work like nothing happened. And then there were other guys who were coerced out, yet not one guy, to my knowledge, and I've read a lot of documents that support this, was ever charged and released. So violation of NDA 126, which basically alludes to, it speaks to refusal of a vaccine without reasonable grounds, which is not defined anywhere. Blah, 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 blah. Short and dirty, if you refuse a vaccine without reasonable grounds, you can be fucking charged to up to 2 years imprisonment, less a day, or lesser punishment. That's what it says.
Wow.
And lesser punishment would include being kicked out of the fucking army. Right? Yep. So he wasn't charged. And nobody else was fucking charged. And I know there's like a lawsuit going on, which there should be. Yeah. So, in my opinion, the whole thing was a fucking gong show, completely mismanaged, lack of fucking leadership and direct guidance on how to handle it.
And here
we talked about this before on the show. I told Morgan I would have fucking charged you under 126.
Fair enough,
right?
Yeah, but they left it up to a bunch of the lieutenant colonels.
They left it up to COs.
Back to Dallas Alexander came out and said he's not an anti-vaxxer. He's been vaccinated to deploy overseas, yellow fever, typhoid.
Just like me.
Just like everybody else. Yeah, we've all got all of them.
Stapled together with all kinds of shit. I don't even know what the fuck it is.
Yeah.
He didn't like
the one that they put in your forearm.
Yeah. He believes in freedom and freedom of choice. And he said, I don't want that shit in my fucking body. And they towed the line. And basically he got ejected. I'm not going to get into how. You can still watch that episode on SRS. That's Dallas' story, not my story.
But Chris, I guess the Cavs counter to that is saying, no, well, you weren't ejected. You made a choice. You put yourself in that situation, so it's your fault. Because that's essentially what I was told. So I'm like, yeah, fair enough. Like I made a decision, to have autonomy over my own body, and because I chose that, I was no longer welcome to serve. And I was going to be 5F'd out of the army. Things have changed since then, but that was the initial, course that we were headed down.
Well, that's just it. You were put in a position they sent you home, and then the government came back and said, now government employees don't have to be fucking vaccinated. So remember that limbo you were living in?
Put the rest of us. Yeah, exactly.
We're fucking off the parade square here. Going back to his shit, he was kicked out, right? Fucking escorted off the base. You can watch it all on SRS 48. Check it out.
I do have to check out that episode.
Fuck, you had all night when we fucked this podcast up to do that. Come on, keep up. Stop doing psychedelics all night.
No, psychedelics were on
Tuesday. It's his story. I don't want to talk about it. But after that, there's some choice words about the direction the CF's going. I thought he was kind. I didn't think he fucking slammed the Canadian Armed Forces. He slammed. Okay, he didn't slam anything. What he said was, and I'm paraphrasing because we feel the same way, that the type of guy he is, a hard pipe hitting fucking tier 1 operator, that the current government, who's I've never seen a government stick its fingers fucking more directly into the Canadian Armed Forces ever than this one, changed the trajectory and what was important within the CAF because we were no longer war fighting. The Afghanistan combat mission was done. We weren't doing that. And there was a bunch of woke bullshit happening that may be important over here, but not important to a guy that's whole job in life is to fucking do direct action, which is to kill fucking bad guys.
Yeah.
They were taken away from his fucking range time. So whatever. I'm not going to say his opinion. I got my opinions. A lot of that shit's why I left. That's a whole other podcast, why I left. I get it. At the end of the day, I will say this, that he no longer felt that being in the Canadian Armed Forces was for him anymore based on a lot of shit that was going on. And I get that feeling, man. Fucking once you put enough time in and there's a big shift. I felt that way in the 90s till things kicked off again, heated up, and operational focus became fucking more important than what I deemed as wokeism in the 90s and a bunch of fucking shit that the government said was reflective of Canadian values that must be fucking dumped on the Canadian forces. I never agreed with that. And I understand, a lot of that stuff and what's important. And I don't want racism, sexism, and all that fucking sexual harassment shit. That's not important. But you don't need to beat me over the fucking head with it. And when it comes to fucking operational focus and training, stop doing that. So anyways, I'm going off on a tangent. I'm going to fucking stop.
Yeah.
So he gets into that in 48. And I don't know. Yeah. Here's where we get into your conspiracy theories. I'm gonna let you guys run.
No, I agree with them. Like I said, all of these things, does it actually, they like to believe it, that it increases operational effectiveness. And I'm calling bullshit. No, it doesn't. Like, young soldiers should be on the range. They should be, running bayonet ranges and, doing combatives and, beating the shit out of each other and shooting things and blowing shit up. And anything short of that, I mean, you're not increasing operational effectiveness. You think when, if God forbid, if, guys start ending up over in Eastern Europe, do you think the Russians give a shit about, LGBTQ crowd? They don't. Do you think they give a shit about gender? Like
gender not during conflict or war. Yeah, absolutely.
Every single 5.56 round, I was like in my magazine, they didn't give a shit what gender you were. They'll kill you just the same.
They were just shooting at you.
Again, that's an extremely left government direct meddling in how the Canadian Armed Forces goes.
And because of that, one of the things that Dallas touched on was a lot of people are seeing this, and a lot of these guys like us that joined in like the late 90s or the 90s, early 2000s went to war.
Late 80s, baby.
We know.
You can't tell me though that the conservatives never inflicted their.
They did because they were in power. I'm not rewinding.
Yeah. I know that you can't tell me that this government is the first one to get their hands involved in the Canadian forces. It's just it's starting to affect.
I just think this government
retention levels. I think is what the issue is.
Sure, I agree with you, Bryce. I just feel that this government. We like those words in this fucking
feelings.
I feel that this government has interfered, directly or indirectly more than others is all I'm saying. Back in my day, the government more or less stayed the fuck out of the military. It basically, so what a military is a fucking, is the practical application of foreign policy and the extension of political will. That's what it is. And I only need two things from the government: money, funding,
and where,
and tell me when and where and what. That's it. The how, fucking I'll handle it.
Yeah, don't worry.
Yeah, but I think because we're the biggest department in the federal government, Department of National Defense. And
I thought the PRA was, but
we are, and they've essentially turned the Canadian Armed Forces into like a social experiment.
Yeah,
and that's not what we should be. It takes away from what we should be focusing on, and what we should be focusing on is how to fight
right now.
I think that's what they're focusing on right now, is trying to keep people in the military. There's a hard bleeding problem right now where a lot of troops, especially from our generations, are just sick and tired of this said woke bullshit. I think it's just there's the higher echelons don't know what the fuck they're doing anymore. There's been such a congressional fucking uproar of stupidity in the last decade because of the shambles that we've been left in since Afghanistan.
I don't think they want war fighters anymore, right?
No, they absolutely don't.
Come on, now. If you want to wear
that fucking color, that pattern ever, they don't want you around.
Yeah, I'll agree with you, Chris.
Yeah, I could see where that's going.
Because I'm still in, so to speak. Anybody, like all of our warfighters are, with the exception of like a scattered corporal for life here or there, all of our warfighting experience is like the low rank is like a senior warrant officer.
Probably, yep,
that's true. Yeah.
No, not probably. It is most of you'll see sergeants going around now with like a NATO service medal on for being in fucking Latvia. They haven't been anywhere, they haven't done anything through no fault of their own, but they just haven't been anywhere. So we don't know like
No, but this is what happened.
Going to that comment though from Positive Mike. I don't know if it's the current government or the last government, but it's just the retention in the military itself. Nobody wants to be there. The benefits towards the good towards the bad isn't there anymore. The paycheck isn't. If you're going in for the paycheck, that never was there to begin with. So
you're right, but I mean, I'll tell you what. This is what happens when we get bored, and I mean that as a country. This Russia shit might change that, but I remember in the 90s.
Not for me.
It's getting close. Yeah, I'm gonna get out and ride motorcycles.
I remember before there were gaps, like after Cyprus was our big thing, which was nothing. It was a bullshit holiday. We got into Yugoslavia, Croatia, and Bosnia, but there still wasn't a huge CF focus on it until Afghanistan, which consumed huge amounts of resources, got lots of attention with embedded media, and became this massive global fucking thing. It was no longer a peacekeeping operation. Yeah. And the Canadian Armed Forces had operational focus, and that's all that mattered. I remember during that time,
the money just flowed.
I didn't have to go take sensitivity training classes. I didn't have to, when I ordered my fucking clothing on the Logisticor, it was male or female, not transgender. We weren't worried about,
you couldn't have any option, is what you're saying. Yeah.
Correct.
Well, now as a guy in the military, you have that option.
The word inclusion didn't exist. The recruiting system was looking for people and they didn't give a fuck about your color, your gender. There was no fucking demographics. We need people who want to be in the military to go do military fucking shit.
Yeah.
And now they're sideways. So without us going completely off the parade square, because that's the direction we're going on, when you tie this back, is it unfair for a guy like Dallas Alexander to come out and say, in way broader terms than we're talking, way more subdued terms than we're talking, to say that the direction that the Canadian Armed Forces and the government was taking the Canadian Armed Forces was not aligned with the direction he wanted to be.
Yeah.
And then COVID was merely a catalyst with the vaccine fucking rollout, which ultimately led to his fucking release.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. I don't think he's shit on the military.
Like, so if he can say that, essentially what we're saying is that you're no longer allowed to have an opinion in this country.
Censorship.
You certainly can't have an opinion.
No, it's not that at all, boys. What it is, it's his level. It's his level of training and influence on others, and the channel that he decided to spit that on, and where he was.
Yeah, his platform's pretty high profile.
Yeah, that's special forces of special forces of special forces. I mean, that has world attention. And then you put a guy from a country who's never had somebody speak and tell their story, and now he's not only telling his story, going through his release, but also throwing a little bit of shade at the government and the way that the current situation is sitting.
He's not going through his release. He's released as fuck.
Oh, okay. So he is a full citizen then. Oh, okay. I wasn't sure on that. I still haven't caught the episode.
He's a veteran now. That's all.
Okay. So he should be able to speak his fucking mind. Unless there's an NDA within his contract. I apologize. No, I'll redact my comment.
And that's something we didn't totally touch on.
Yeah.
Once again, like the Army, Navy, and the Air Force, like the regular forces, it's a bit different. I've never been special forces. You guys haven't, but I know some guys that are there, and even when they started training to be assaulters and operators, they did have to sign some type of NDA, and I guess it's pretty serious too. That being said, I don't know what the timelines are on it. If there's a statute of limitations, blah blah blah, right? But circling back to what we said at the beginning, Dallas Alexander is a pretty smart cat, and I highly doubt that he shot himself in the foot here. I'm sure he would have, would have checked his six, covered his bases to make sure he wasn't,
And the date timestamp on that fucking letter tells me that he told the command and the unit, or at least I assume that. Sorry, I hate that word.
Somebody had that copied and pasted, dude. That's sitting there and just needed the date, the name, and the who, what, and where put in.
So they knew he was going to go to this interview. There's no fucking way because he would have said, "Hey, I'm doing this." And at the end of the day, fucking NDA aside, he did not talk about. He did not violate OPSEC. And so why the fuck are they get their shit in a knot now? Because somebody up the chain got their shit in a
up
knot.
this side to this side, 100%. But it's what they can. It's like in court. It's what you can prove to what you're guilty from. It's all in the proof. So all they're doing now is they're waving the bat that they can wave at because of the character that he is and the high profile training that he has.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, like you guys were saying yesterday, when he was a silent professional, maybe he should have stayed a little bit more silent. There's some things that he should have kept him to himself. I personally don't know the man. I have much respect for that training and that kind of process, right? But if you're going to shit talk the government, dude, especially at that level, get
I agree with you, Bryce. It doesn't make it right.
Hang on. Bryce, you haven't seen the fucking episode. He didn't shit talk the government. Okay, so this is what I want to avoid. Don't be saying shit like that. That's going to exasperate his already fucking volatile situation. He never gave up any OPSEC, in my opinion.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, and in Morgan's, he never shit talked the government. What he said was he wasn't aligned with the trajectory that the military was going on because the government drives what the military does.
Yep.
And he wasn't aligned with the fucking vaccine mandate. He's not an anti-vaxxer. He's pro-choice. And he made his decision and it cost him his fucking career. That's all he said.
Yeah.
So
okay, well, I'm gonna hold my words. I want to check out the episode itself, and just see where I'd really like to. I really wish I had have caught 47 before it was redacted and really caught what all the meat and potatoes was all about. Because at that point, I think it was just somebody's ego was hurt, and now they're just flaunting the bat that they have to hold because of who he is and where he was. I have respect for the guy. Like I don't mean to shit talk anybody. I am one of the biggest anti-government fucking people as it is. So
let's put the fire on you for a while and take it off
fucking rights, man.
Go nuts.
Absolutely.
The floor. I'm gonna give you guys the floor for 2 minutes each, and we're wrapping this shit up.
Yeah, right on. Well, I'll go for it, Bryce.
I have nothing. You go ahead, Morgan.
Okay. So, I mean, first and foremost, like I said, I'll tell you right now, I support Dallas, everything that he's saying, everything that he's doing. And I think the fact that he stood up, one of the things that he actually said was in I don't remember, it was 47 or 48, because I know a lot of guys that did not want to be vaccinated, but they did because they wanted to travel, or they thought they were going to lose their job, or blah, 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 right? But if all of those people who initially didn't want to get this vaccination, if they had stood up like I did, like Dallas did, and said, no, the government wouldn't have been able to do a goddamn thing, and we probably wouldn't be in the position we're in if people had stood on their fucking morals.
And you're not an anti-vaxxer. You've been.
And I got every vaccination known to man except for one. Well, I guess like 6 now, but whatever. Right?
I don't know fucking how many updates there is.
And I will say that I think what I'm saying is somewhat true, because now that the boosters aren't mandatory, the rate of people getting boosters like across Canada is something like crazy, like 17%. So, imagine if the first two initial shots, you actually had a choice.
Yeah,
the vaccination rate would probably be below 50%. And if enough people had stood their ground and said, you know what, this is not for me. If you want to get it, go for it. You do what you want to do, but I have autonomy over my own body, and no thank you. We would not be in the position we're in today. And we would have told the government to pound sand. Because guess what? What people forget is that the government work for us. We do not work for the government.
I would have charged you under NDA 126 out of the army.
That's fine. But that's fine. But I can come to Jesus with that in my head, Chris, because that makes sense.
I know.
That's how the army works.
That's how it works.
But instead, they came up with these magical directives, kind of not really orders.
Yeah.
I always loved
they made themselves look stupid.
I always loved directives because they were never orders. They're like,
no,
we strongly encourage or suggest you to read this. I'm like, okay, is that a fucking order or not?
Exactly, Chris.
Just do it. Yeah, exactly.
Directives are a military term for what civvies call neat ideas.
Yeah. So, like I said, Chris, you and I are in complete agreement. If you were the RSM or if you were the CAF chief warrant officer and you said, if these fuckers don't do it, charge them all 126, I can live with that.
Absolutely, that would have made sense.
And I am
I
pro-choice.
think that's
Hey,
why they
you
were.
made your fucking choice. Now here's what's happening to you.
Yeah.
But that never happened, Chris.
No, I know what happened. It was, and I'm with you on how they
Yeah, I
fucked it
know.
all up. I'm the first guy to say you fucked it up. You had the means to manage it properly
Yeah.
and turn it into a big fucking goat rodeo. And
Oh,
now
they
you're
could have educated. That's what they should have started with, a little bit of education, saying that it was new. It wasn't new. These
you'd have the
vaccines
whole
have been
fucking
worked
army
on.
on mushrooms if you had your way, for fuck's sakes, man.
Not a chance. Not mushrooms. Maybe LSD. Yeah. We'd start the day with some cannabis brownies like that young miss in The Artillery, and then move to LSD and
Oh, and she got the whole unit high.
fucking rights.
God bless her.
Had a girl.
I'd
Had a
like to.
girl.
You know who I'd like to get on the podcast is some of those dudes that went on the record saying that they felt off and they were all weirded out and they couldn't do their job properly while high. Man, come on. How strong were those brownies? I want her recipe.
Okay, I'm gonna wrap this shit up. Thank you guys for your time. We'll see you in a couple of minutes. Bryce Hooper, Morgan Warren. All right, there you go. We've recovered this fucking thing. I want to thank everybody who jumped on today. I know it was a weird time slot. I fucked up yesterday. Quick recap. I wish the best to Dallas. I know he's eating a bit of shit right now, and I hope he's got legal advice and he's managing his time. I don't think he did anything wrong. Nobody on my show thinks he did anything wrong. Nobody I know thinks he did anything wrong. Clearly he pissed somebody off. We'll let it play out, see what happens next. But I'll tell you one thing I do know, that this gentleman, no, that's me. There he is right now, Mosul, Iraq, doing the shitty fucking jobs that most people don't want to do, taking out ISIS bad guys to protect everything that you take for granted. Not everybody, but a lot of people. And when he went to tell his story, this is what he got. Muzzled. So you can follow him on Instagram and Twitter. He's also a wicked musician. If you're into country music, check it out. I am Dallas Alexander. I want to thank my sponsors, Positive Mike. I got one beer left, Mike, so we'll have to arrange some time here. You can get Mike's gear. Check him out on Instagram. He's probably on Facebook too. Maybe Twitter. You on Twitter, Mike? I don't know. Yeah, you can get the gear. I can get the beer. I need some more beer. We'll arrange a time. We'll figure it out. Also brought to you by the good folks at Lakeside Farmstead, north of Edmonton, Alberta. You get amazing dairy products and the best Wagyu cross beef that I can find in the local area. Outstanding. Jeff and his family owned and operated, bang out some wicked products. So thanks for hanging out with us today. On behalf of Crier Media, I'm Chris. This is it. We're done.